Amelia Earhart vanished over the Pacific Ocean in the summer of 1937. Almost immediately, her disappearance shifted from a missing persons case into a 20th century myth, fueled by her status as an aviation pioneer who continually pushed the boundaries of her era. Within days, the United States Navy launched a rescue operation of a scale never before seen. A massive fleet of battleships, destroyers, and an aircraft carrier scoured over 250,000 square miles of open water, burning through the equivalent of nearly $100 million today. They found absolutely nothing. For 87 years, the public treated this as an unsolvable ghost story, a celebrated pilot simply swallowed by the sky. But recently declassified radio logs and unsealed naval documents point to a much clearer, more terrestrial explanation. Unsealed evidence reveals a terrestrial catastrophe, a cascading, preventable failure of Earhart's own systems and communication protocols. In the spring of 1937, Earhart was under immense pressure. Her first attempt to circle the globe had ended in a runway crash in Hawaii. To make the 29,000-mile journey on her second try, her Lockheed Electra had to carry over 1,000 pounds of highly flammable fuel. Every extra ounce of weight drained that fuel faster. To compensate, Earhart and her navigator, Fred Noonan, stripped the plane of anything they deemed non-essential. They ripped out the insulation, dumped the emergency smoke bombs, and discarded the marine frequency radio, the exact device designed to send distress calls to ships at sea. She also removed the trailing antenna, a 250-foot wire that dragged behind the aircraft to broadcast on the crucial 500 kilohertz frequency. By leaving it behind, she eliminated her ability to communicate on the one frequency that rescue ships were equipped to track. To compound the physical modifications, she made a critical personnel decision. After the first crash, her dedicated radio operator left the crew. Earhart decided to fly without a backup pilot or a radio expert, leaving her with a communication system she didn't fully master. By prioritizing fuel weight over communication redundancies, she dismantled her own safety net long before the wheels ever left the tarmac. Even with the stripped-down equipment, a communication plan was put in place. Weeks before the final leg, a radio specialist mapped out beacon signals for the U.S. Navy ships along her route. He communicated these targets in wavelengths, assigning the primary rescue ship, the USS Itasca, a target of 750 meters. This diagram shows the mathematical error that doomed the flight. In 1937, radio targets could be expressed as wavelengths or as frequencies. The math is a simple conversion. 750 meters equals 400 kilohertz. But when Earhart messaged the ships, she mixed up the units. Instead of asking the Itasca to broadcast on 400 kilohertz, she requested they transmit on 7,500 kilohertz. That specific number was a death sentence. The loop antenna on her plane could only take accurate directional bearings on frequencies up to 1,800 kilohertz. Her request for 7,500 kilohertz soared well beyond the physical limits of her own hardware. The crew on the Itasca assumed she knew her equipment. They complied, broadcasting the rescue beacon on a frequency Earhart was literally deaf to. To understand why this was fatal, we have to look at how 1930s direction finding worked. A pilot rotated a loop antenna to listen to a radio signal. As the antenna turned, the signal would get louder, and then suddenly drop to a point of silence. That silent null point allowed pilot to pinpoint exactly where the signal originated. But high frequencies behave differently. At 7,500 kilohertz, the radio waves bounced off the upper atmosphere and scattered. Instead of arriving in a straight line, the signals hit the plane's antenna from all directions simultaneously, destroying the silent null point. This created a cruel irony inside the cramped cockpit. As Earhart flew over the Pacific, she could hear the rescue ship's Morse code in her headset. But however she turned the dial, she couldn't determine where it was coming from. The technology functioned exactly as it was built to, and the rescue crew was in position. But because of a mismatch in frequencies, the ship and the airplane remained effectively invisible to one another. By the morning of July 2nd, Earhart had been flying for 20 hours. With her fuel tanks running low, she dropped the aircraft to an altitude of just 1,000 feet, desperately scanning the endless blue for the tiny speck of Howland Island. Directly below her, the radio men on the USS Itasca were transmitting at full power. Their signals were picked up as far away as San Francisco, but they received almost no acknowledgement from the plane. At 7:42 a.m., Earhart's voice burst through the static. She was frantic, stating they were circling and unable to hear the ship. Without her trailing antenna, her weak transmissions were barely punching through. Worse, static discharge likely damaged a critical relay switch on her receiver, meaning she could broadcast her mounting panic, but she couldn't hear a single voice pleading back. Earhart's flight ended in silence, grounded by the technical inability to hear the voices trying to guide her home. Without a definitive crash site, modern researchers have pursued two distinct theories. The first is the crash and sink theory, supported by a 2024 discovery of an aircraft-shaped sonar anomaly resting 16,000 feet deep on the ocean floor, exactly where a fuel calculation would place her plane. The second is the castaway hypothesis. This suggests Earhart and Noonan continued gliding along their final navigation line until they hit a remote, uninhabited coral reef called Nikumaroro. The evidence here is chilling. For days after the disappearance, radio stations picked up distress calls synced with the island's low tides. Forensic measurement of bones found on the atoll in 1940 closely match Earhart's height. If she died there, the island's apex scavengers, massive coconut crabs, would have scattered and consumed her remains within weeks. Regardless of whether she sank to the crushing depths or died waiting on a reef, the root cause of the tragedy remains exactly the same. Amelia Earhart spent her life proving that women could command aircraft, break endurance records, and operate in spaces they were previously barred from. Her legacy of defying expectations is undeniable. Yet her final flight proves a harsh reality of engineering and exploration. Raw courage and towering ambition are highly vulnerable without built-in redundancy, rigorous planning, and clear protocols. This disaster was entirely preventable. It required only a single individual to take responsibility for ensuring their systems were speaking the